A big hello to you. It's so great to see you and I hope I find you well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you up here to Weir Yard. Now, just as the last few days of 2023 were passing by and we were getting ready to celebrate the new 2024, an all-new model sneaked out from KR Models, and certainly it's one that I think has been going stealth because I haven't seen a lot written about it online. Now, KR Models are much better known for some of their quirky UK outline models like the GT3, the Concert iron ore hoppers and of course the Palbrick Bs. But they've also been developing in parallel a US outline range, and the first of these models has made it through to the shops, and that is the skeletal logging cars. Now, these were once quite a common sight across the US and Canada, where they were used out in the western frontiers on often quite lightly laid logging railroads, delving deep into the hills, the mountains, the forests, to extract the lumber that was needed to fuel a nation that was undergoing explosive growth. Now, often these lumber railroads were really lightly laid. They weren't really graded much at all, and it wasn't unheard of for things like 12% grades to be had as these railroads weaved their way up hillsides, often with switchbacks and trestles that were just rough hewn from the logs that were around. It's these interesting prototypes that KR Models have drawn inspiration from, with this logging car and also the forthcoming Shay locomotives, which are the ideal motive power to pull these. It really looks like an interesting range is developing. Now, I've always had a soft spot for the US logging railroads, and certainly there are some amazing prototypes out there, and if you just do a quick Google search you can find all manner of inspirational photographs that show just how interesting these rugged frontier rail lines really were. This model really does look something interesting. It's quite a Spartan little model, but the more you look at it, the deeper the detail goes. So really kindly, KR Models have sent over all three versions that they're producing, and that's without load, with a 3-log load and with a 6-log load. So is this going to be a wagon that makes the grade, or is it going to be left slipping and sliding away? Well, come with me and let's take a good close look. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
Before we get on into the review, I'd like to ask a huge favour. Do please hit that like button and also consider subscribing to the channel if you've not already done so. You can also head on over to Patreon and help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see. We've also got channel membership available as well, and a big thank you to everybody who helps support the channel and makes these videos possible. But US logging railroads, certainly they are something that once seen you will forever be reeled in by their charm, and it's something that I've always had a hankering after building. We've got a link in the description box down below to take you to where you can find these items for sale at KR Models, but let's first of all go and see if these do make the grade. In the UK, KR Models are known for some quite quirky prototypes like the GT3, the Fell, the Palbrick B wagons, But they also have been hard at work on expanding a US orientated range, and just in the last few days of 2023 the first of their US orientated models have reached their warehouse. I'm quite grateful to KR Models for sending over some examples for us to be able to take a good close look at, and certainly if you're into US and Canadian outline modelling, then this is something which may well pique your interest. Now, there's not a lot of information on the end here in terms of catalogue numbers. Just got down there KRM log HO, and on the other end we've got this conforms to NMRA standards. The information on the box is just a little bit Spartan. Taking it out of the box, this is one of 3 different variants that KR Models have released. The other 2, it's the same logging truck, but you get a choice of either having it unladen or with 3 logs or with 6 logs, and it just gives you an opportunity to mix and match between the different versions. And essentially the logging car itself is exactly the same. Very carefully place it upside down so it doesn't roll off, so I can get out the extra detail parts that are in here. And this is an actual metal chain, and these are important. All 3 of the logging cars come with these, whether you have logs or not. Now, first impressions of the wagon itself is, well, they don't call this a skeletal logging wagon for nothing. Really, these are almost very Spartan. We've got that central kind of spine of the wagon, a couple of outriggers, and then we've got the trucks on here, and that's pretty much everything. There's also a handbrake wheel on the end. That's a separately fitted part, and it's quite a springy plastic, but the actual shape and design on that really is quite lovely. You can see the angled spokes, so I just like that look. It's something that you see on a lot of older machinery, rather than just having straight spokes. Having these kind of curved ones is really, really nice. In the close-up there as well, you can see all the strapping separately picked out, and some of the bolts that would go through. I think the originals of these would have been made of timber bolts. Certainly for logging railroads, quite often these were really quite rough and ready, and so the logging cars were really utilitarian, to say the least. Now, the forthcoming Shay is the perfect locomotive to go with these, but these have beaten the Shay to the market. I can't really find much written about them online, but these they actually seem to have brakes. I'm quite surprised at this. Looking on the underside, we've got all the pipe work and the cylinders on there. I guess it would have been air brakes. I guess Westinghouse air brakes, and I suppose that would have been important because on the logging railroads it wasn't unheard of for these to be quite rough and ready. A lot of gradients, including, I've seen photographic evidence of up to 12% documented, and that is quite phenomenal. And certainly it does make a logging switchback type railroad, certainly the ones out there in the frontiers, something really quite eye-catching to build. And these, I think, are going to open the doors to a lot of switchback style railroads. The actual trucks underneath are held in place by a central screw. There is a good deal of movement which these can take in, although they are quite firmly screwed in, so they're not going to come loose. The wheels on this one, we've got disc wheels, and then the truck itself, it's hard to tell whether that's metal or plastic, but certainly it does feel pretty robust. And just to make sure that these can go around some really quite tight curves, we've got some cutaways into the spine of the logging wagon, just to give these a little bit of extra curvature, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that the prototypes would have carried as well. The outriggers painted black, and they've got two little holes, one at either end, and that's where the chains in the separate detailing pack fit into. The couplings are these KD type knuckle couplings with a spring, and these are actually of metal construction, so they've got a really robust quality feel to them. Certainly much better than the locomotives that I've got, which all seem to feature plastic knuckle couplings. So that is definitely quite a plus point on the features. All of this separately fitted pipework really is quite nice. The full brake rigging there is modelled, and of course this is something, because of the slender nature of these, that you do see really quite well. And then moving down to the other truck, and we've got brake blocks on there which do line up with the wheel treads. Now they are a part of the moulding, but certainly lining up with the wheel treads is perfect. That's what you would hope, and that's what has been delivered. And let's just take a look at the little chains that come with this. Now this is sealed in a bag from the factory, so just going to have to open that up. Just going to get my rather manky tweezers. I think I'm going to need these just to make sure that I can fit these okay. And we're looking for these little eyelets at the end. It's an actual metal chain, and it's definitely quite robust. It feels a lot like the kind of chain that you would get on expensive jewellery like necklaces. And then we've got these eyes at the end, which they've got like a little knuckle there, just goes into that little hole there. Just going to try and get that into place, and this is where the tweezers come in, but if you just place it in that hole it will just fall out. I'm just going to push that in, and then that is actually quite firmly in place, and then these would wrap around the logs and just fit in on the other side. Now there we go, we've got the chains in place, and on an unloaded wagon these would have just been draped somewhere in the middle. If you're worried about this falling off and just gumming up into the truck, a little tiny dab of PVA will just hold it in place but not damage any of the finish. So I've got the other two of the lumber cars that have been sent over out. They are exactly the same as far as I can see there. There's no actual running numbers on these, but in all honesty, on a lumber logging railroad operation, probably didn't get anything more than maybe something daubed on the side in white paint perhaps, but even then it's very difficult to tell from the photographs, and none of these cars carry any kind of numbering. Now these two extra lumber cars each come with a differing amount of logs. So the first one I'm going to take a look at comes with a little bag, and we've got 6 logs, and one thing that I immediately notice with these is they're not all identical. We've got several different diameters and lengths of logs, which give them a really nice kind of variety. So these are resin. They're not real wood, so they're actually quite strong. But I do love that pattern that we've got on there. Let me just bring those into focus. And you can see there's some really nice effects that have been done on these. They've been given a kind of brown wash, and some of that has gathered in the grooves. So we've got darker and lighter, and then it's been dry brushed over the top with a kind of lichen effect, maybe a bit of dirt, so that we've got a real variety. And I guess no two of these logs are exactly the same. Again, looking to the ends, it has that look of freshly sawn timber. I'm not sure how many different diameters we've got here, but definitely there's a lot of variety. We've got a slightly longer one there, 2 smaller diameter but shorter. There's another one smaller diameter but shorter, and I think that one again that looks to be the same as there and there. So we've got it looks to be 3 and 3, so 3 smaller, 3 I'm going to call them medium. Any 2 of these I don't think are exactly the same. Just going over there, and you can see that the pattern on there is really quite random. I do like that. Now in the final car we've got a pack of the 3 logs. So this is a 3 log car. These are actually bigger, so I'd say that these 2 are the biggest. We've got another one there which is slightly different, slightly shorter. I'm just going to hold that up there, and that is actually just a little bit bigger than the bigger of these. So there's actually a lot of variety between these two packs, definitely. A lot of variety. So if you want to model a train that maybe is coming down from a logging claim carrying big trees, little trees, medium trees, or indeed going back up empty, there's a lot of variety. Now, when it comes to fitting these to the lumber wagons, once you've fitted the chains in, it's relatively simple. So what I'm going to do is just feed these in underneath here, and there are little wedges just on the side of the outriggers, and these actually do very well just to stabilize the logs, just as they did on the prototypes. And they're not holding it tight. Again, if you're wanting to leave the load intact, you don't want any risk of it perhaps falling off, then you can use a tiny amount of PVA. And there's quite a weight to these resin logs do have a lot of mass to them. So just got the 6 smaller logs in. Again, if you're bothered about them falling over, actually I found running around on the layout, they don't tend to, even when bobbling over point work. But if you're going to be running these on something like a logging switchback layout, you may find a small dab of PVA between the logs. It'll just help hold them steady and just stop them from falling off to one side. When it comes to running on the track, these perform really quite well. Even when unloaded, they do follow the track through all of its twists and turns really quite effectively, and I had no issues whatsoever with any kind of hint of derailment. And I put that down to the construction of these with a lot of weight down low in that central spine of the wagon, plus we've got a lot of weight in the wheels, in the trucks, and the logs too do seem to sit reasonably well over the wedges at the ends of the outriggers. And I guess with a little bit more practice I can probably get the chains to pull them just a little bit tighter, but the wagons themselves don't actually come with any instructions. Fully laden too, they rattled around Weir Yard really quite well. I had them running at a reasonable speed on the main line, and I didn't have any issues with the logs trying to shift from side to side and threatening to fall off. So we turn now to the scores, and first up is build quality, and straight out of the box I've had no issues whatsoever with these three. They seem really well put together, and based on a few issues that people may have had with the concert bogie wagons, I did pay close attention to the fixings on these, and that is definitely an issue that has been thoroughly addressed and does not rear its head on these models. All in all, the detail on here, there's a lot of it for what should be quite a simple wagon, but this just shows that even though it is a simple prototype, KR models have pulled out all of the stops, and even the chain as well is really quite robust and takes up the handling really quite well. There's just nothing I can fault with these, and I'm going to give them the full 10 out of 10. With running quality, I did initially wonder whether these might be a little bit unsteady on the track. When unloaded, they didn't seem to have a lot of weight just by looking at them, but certainly it's got it where it counts, with a special use of the metal wheels to give a lot of low down weight, and even when loaded up with the logs, they did seem pretty sure-footed all the way around Weir Yard. The only area where I felt that maybe they could come in for some criticism is the wagons loaded with the logs. It's very difficult to get the tension on the chain. I've managed it with these with a combination of running the chain through the open side chock and also hand picking 4 logs, which just made it reasonably tight and stops the logs from falling off sideways. So I'm going to give this a 9.8. On DCC fitting and innovation, well, DCC fitting is not applicable, but on innovation, certainly this model really does show some very clear thought has gone into it. We've got some very thoughtful use of materials for some of these rather prone detail parts. I like the high quality detailed metal knuckle couplers, but for me the real highlight is these logs. cast in resin. I count at least 4 different lengths and or diameters, and they also have slightly different patterns of the bark on the side, which does mean that there's a lot of variety so that your cars don't look like they're all loaded up with exactly the same logs. The brown wash over the top really does work wonders and gives this wonderful mix of different colours where it settles either into the detail or lightens up over some of the exposed bits of the casting. There's this additional pass with dry brushing with a couple of other colours as well, and that really does make these logs stand out. I actually honestly hope that KR Models also think to offer these in separate packs, because I think that these will be an amazing seller even in their own right, and everything about this oozes quality. The only area where it did feel like perhaps there could have been just a little bit extra is on these chains. They are really robust, but getting them tight enough to avoid the logs from moving to one side is really tricky. So I'm going to give this a 9.8. On accuracy and quality of finish, well, looking to the wagon itself, and I'm going to get the unloaded wagon here just to take a good close look. We've got some amazing detail, all picked out appropriately in the right colours. There's no bleed across with any of these colour passes, and even though it's just brown and black, it really does look special. The metal chain is really quite a nice touch. It is really strong, with, as said before, the only criticism being the way that you can get it tight enough for the logs to not risk running off the side on rough shunts. Everything about even just the unloaded lumber cars really is superb. When you add into that mix these resin logs, you do get something incredibly special. There's a lot of thought gone into these, and the end result is absolutely superb, and I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. On value for money, these logging cars retail at $60 for the unloaded variety and $75 for those with the log loads, whether you go for the 3 log or the 6 log varieties. Now that might seem quite expensive, but just remember the dollar to pound conversions, and that means that in pounds the unloaded variety will be around the £50 to £55 mark, and the loaded variety will be at around the £60 to £62 mark. These are a high fidelity model. We've got a lot of separately applied detail, separately finished paintwork on there, and everything about it oozes charm and quality. All in all, I think that's a pretty reasonable price to pay for these models. My personal favourites are the loaded variety, and I think for that extra $15, these are certainly well worth it for having these resin logs. And I'm going to give this a 9.0, and that gives us an overall score of 48.6. Well, I hope you found today's video informative, and certainly I'd love to hear from you in the comments section down below just what you think about these HO scale lumber logging cars. Certainly I've been very impressed, as you'll have seen in the video, but I really would appreciate hearing what your thoughts are on these wagons. Is it something maybe that you've got on order, or maybe you've already received yours? What do you think of them? And I'd really love to hear from anybody out there who's making their own US outline lumber railroad, and just what you think about these products becoming available for that. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying don't forget we've got a link down below taking you to KR Models, where you can find the logging cars and also the Shay locomotives that are forthcoming as well. And do please tickle that like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel too, and check us out over on Patreon. We've also got a full merch store down below. But until next time, you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.